Hi, my name is Vanessa van Dijk, and in this video I want to share with you how you can use your Panoxide 4% benzoyl peroxide cleanser and differin gel, which is also known as adapalene. Now, those are products that I like to use myself since it works well for my normal to oily acne-prone skin. And I now want to share with you a morning and evening skincare routine that I like to do myself regularly to target my specific skin concerns. And it has been working out really well for me. And so I cannot use those products in the same routine. If I'm doing this too often, I can really end up with sensitivity. So therefore I like to split it up. I'm going to work with my benzoyl peroxide cleanser in the morning, my differin gel in the evening. And so this is now what I wanted to share with you. Now, as always, I have prepared for you my example routine in PowerPoint slides so that you can see it visually when going over it. And you can find the link in the description box down below if you want to go over it in your own time, or maybe even download them if you want to follow the routine. So let's have a look at the morning routine, which you can see right here. So on the top corner you can see the time of use, below that the steps, underneath the products, and then below the boxes the overall general guide. So we're going to get started with washing the face using the benzoyl peroxide cleanser, and then you're going to rinse it off, pat the skin dry. Then I like to add hydration to the skin using a hydrating toner, Essence Ozone. I'm going to apply to the skin and then I'm going to leave it on the skin. And then if I'm being exposed to the sun, basically when I'm leaving the house, which is not that often, but if I do so, I like to protect the skin with a sunscreen. And here you can see two great examples that I like to use myself. And then this would be the simple but still yet extremely powerful routine in the morning. When it comes to my evening routine, this is what it would look like. I'm going to exchange the cleanser to a gentle cleanser that works well for my skin. I primarily like to work with my Cetaphil's Daily Facial Cleanser, wash my face, rinse it off, pat the skin dry, and then I'm immediately applying the adapalene gel on top. And this is basically what my evening routine looks. It's very simple, straightforward, but works extremely effectively. Now, depending on the sunscreen that I'm using, if I'm wearing the mineral sunscreen, or maybe depending on the sunscreen that you are wearing, and even the makeup, you can go ahead and use an oil or balm cleanser on its own to properly take it off if your regular cleanser shouldn't be able to do this. Or you can go ahead and do a double cleanse using your micellar water, oil or balm cleanser as your first cleansing step, and then move on to your regular cleanser. And then after that, apply the differin gel on top. And then there you go. This is how simple I like to keep it, and it has been working well for me. And so I now want to share with you the entire application. So starting off with the morning skincare routine, I'm getting into details on how you can properly use the products, and then later on moving into the evening routine. So again, you can see the setup right here of the morning routine. We have the cleanser right here, then hydrating products, and then the sunscreen. So for the cleanser, what you have to keep in mind is that you can use the cleanser all over your face and neck, or only on the affected areas. This mainly depends on your acne. If you just have acne on your cheeks, or just on your jawline, or just on your forehead, you do not need to use the benzoyl peroxide cleanser all over your face and neck, because then you can reduce the sensitivity. So you're just going to keep the focus on where you have currently active acne. And so if this is just only one part, well, then just use it on one part. Usually washing the face like just with water is enough in the morning. So really using the cleanser as your treatment cleanser, basically this is what it is the main point right here. But if you have acne all over your face and neck, of course you can use it all over, there's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure to avoid the actual eyelid. Do not get it into your eyes, nor the lower lash line. Please do not get it into your nose or the actual lip, or getting it into your mouth. If that's the case, rinse it with water, otherwise it can be extremely uncomfortable. And so usually I like to use the benzoyl peroxide cleanser in the morning in the shower. This is just what I find is the most convenient, not only for my face, but I like to use it on my chest and back as well, because this is where I do get acne too. And so it just does all in one. I do not have to worry about if I just have effectively rinsed it off, because in the shower this usually works well, and then it just makes things so much easier. Because what you have to keep in mind is that benzoyl peroxide can bleach fabric, or maybe even dyed hair. So you have to be careful. I'm currently wearing an old t-shirt. I'm using a white washcloth, so that I'm making sure that everything comes properly off the skin, so that I'm not going to bleach anything. And if I do, I'm using old stuff so that I'm not being mad at it, but still make sure that you're using clean stuff. And so I'm going to now use the benzoyl peroxide cleanser. I'm going to show you both methods on how you can work with it. But one thing that won't change is that you're going to apply it to wet skin. So go ahead, wet your face and neck and hands, and use lukewarm water to warm water so it feels comfortable on the skin. So let's go ahead and do so. Now go ahead and use your Panoxide cleanser. I like to use the 4% instead of the 10% because the 10% is quite aggressive and I did not really notice any changes, just that I get more sensitivity. So if you're just using your Panoxide cleanser on affected areas, well, of course you need to adjust the amount of product that you're going to use. So if you just want to use it on a smaller part of your face or maybe neck, well then go ahead, use about that much, and then just use it on the affected area and gently massage it in. And then once you have applied it on the affected area, you can leave it on the skin for 1 to 2 minutes before you're going to rinse it off. And then there you have it. So I'm just going to keep the focus towards the forehead now. If that would be the main concern, well then just use it on your forehead. If it's for other parts, well then just do the same on other parts. However, if you now say, well, I want to use it all over my face and neck, well then of course go ahead and use a bit more. This is where I usually would go with about a coin size amount. So with that, what I have already used plus this would be about a coin size amount. And then you can gently massage it all over. Just again, keep in mind your eyes, nose and mouth. So, and once you have massaged it all over, again, you can leave it on the skin for about 1 to 2 minutes or just massage it over your face and neck for those 1 to 2 minutes. There isn't anything wrong with it if you're going to massage it or just leave it. When doing this above the sink, you now can theoretically even just wait or do something else. Usually in the shower, this is why I like to do this in the shower as well. I can move on to washing my body and my hair while this is just going to sit for a moment. And then once the time has passed, this is then when you can rinse it off with water again, using lukewarm water to warm water. And so in the shower, I just would take the shower head and splash everything off the skin, and then there you go. However, when doing this above the sink, this can be a bit more complicated because by just using your hands, you may not be able to get everything properly off the skin. And this is where I always like to use a clean washcloth. And I like to work with a white one because again, it may bleach, and because I still have some leftovers on the skin, it still can potentially bleach the cloth. However, if you do not mind this, or maybe be an older cloth, then of course you can just use an older cloth, and then there you go by just taking it properly off the skin. But please do not forget to do this step in between because it is essential before you're moving on to the next steps. Now take the cloth and wet it. And I'll go ahead and squeeze it out. And then gently swipe it across your face to take any excess off the skin. So now go ahead and take a clean towel and gently remove the water drops from the skin surface by patting it. Please do not rub. This is an essential step to do in between before moving on to your hydrating products, so that you do not come across peeling, that it does not leave a dry or even tight feeling afterwards if you're going to mix your skincare products with the water drops. This is really an uncomfortable feeling, therefore you need to make sure that you can properly remove those water drops from the skin surface. So once you're done with your cleansing step, there's one more thing that I do need to emphasize, and this is when using a benzoyl peroxide cleanser, redness can occur. This should calm down within 30 minutes. This is at least for how long it will take me until I can see that it starts to reduce. Now, experiencing redness is somewhat normal as long as it does not sting or burn on the skin, because if it does this, then you either have used it too often, the strength may be too potent for you, or you just have a sensitivity towards benzoyl peroxide. So please keep this in mind. Do not panic if you just see a bit of redness but it does not hurt in any way. It will calm down. And so now when moving on to the next step, as you may already have noticed in my example routines, I do not like to use a moisturizer. Mainly because I prefer to use products that add hydration to the skin but at the same time absorb into the skin. So I do not like that a moisturizer sits on the skin surface. This is what most moisturizers do. They are just, in my opinion, too fatty, too heavy, especially if you have already acne-prone skin. Every time I would use it, I do notice that I find that it makes the situation worse rather than improving it. And so to me, using a moisturizer is only necessary if you really have dry skin and your skin cannot hold on to it, like to the water itself. But since my skin is still able to do this because I have normal to oily skin, I just need to add hydration to the skin, and this already solves the problem for me. And those products are able to properly absorb into the skin rather than sitting on the skin surface. So again, this is where I like to use a hydrating toner, essence or serum. Now you can go with one of them or maybe just use a toner and serum together. So there isn't something wrong with it of like how many hydrating products you use. Please do not overdo it. I just would use either just one or two maximum. I wouldn't just overdo it with 3 or 4 hydrating products. But still, you get the point. I do not like to work with moisturizer in my case. And so now I'm going to do the application with the toner so that you can see how you can apply to the skin. Basically, with the products that I've picked right here, the general guide is pretty much the same because they have all a very similar texture, and this would be done if you have a serum, toner, or essence that has a very water-like texture. Go with about 5 to 10 drops. So you can start off with 5, see how far you can blend it. If that shouldn't be enough, you can add a few drops more, but I wouldn't use more than that, otherwise it may become smeary or feels uncomfortable on the skin. The product still should be able to absorb into the skin. And so I'm going to use from Rice Toner. That's one that I really like to use myself, and I'm now going to evenly apply it all over my face and neck. Now of course you can apply it with cotton pads, I just prefer to use my hands. Rub the hands together and then evenly blend it all over. So, and once you have added hydration to the skin, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. Now again, if I'm being indoors, I do not use a sunscreen. If I'm going outside, I'm being exposed to the sun, well then this is where I like to use a sunscreen. And so I have 2 great examples right here that I can recommend. Both work extremely well. One thing that won't change is how much you're going to use, because you need to use a fair amount to evenly protect your face, ears, neck, and even décolletage. And so for that, for your face, ears, neck, using half a teaspoon works extremely well, especially with the sunscreen that I can recommend right here. If you have a different sunscreen, you may need to adjust it and reduce the amount or maybe add a bit more to it. This of course depends on how well it blends over your face and neck. And so I'm now going to use Cosrx Aloe Soothing Sunscreen. I have half a teaspoon right here, so I'm going to fill it up so that you can see the amount and then the application. So about that much, more or less. This can be slightly adjusted, but you should get the point that you have enough to blend it evenly all over. And then apply a sunscreen 10 to 15 minutes before sun exposure, basically before going outside. Now you can use your sunscreen around the eyes. If it does not irritate your eyes, then go ahead and do so. Just again, make sure to not get it into your eyes nor into your mouth. But if it does irritate your eyes, well then, please make sure to either leave out the eye part and wear sunglasses instead, or change your sunscreen so that you can use it around the eyes. So, and once you have applied your sunscreen all over, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. And here you have the example of the morning routine that I like to do myself. And so now I would like to share with you the evening routine. So when it comes to the evening skincare routine, we are just going to wash the face with a gentle cleanser and then using the different gel. Now when it comes to what cleanser you should choose, from my experience it works the best to use a cleanser that's suitable for normal to oily skin or combination to oily skin, depending on what's written on it. I've tried in the past to use an hydrating cleanser whenever I came across dryness, but I figured out that this would give me more bumps than do any good. Therefore I still recommend going with a cleanser that I've just emphasized. And if you come across dryness or sensitivity in general, what I like to do is just giving my skin a break of 1 to 2 days, where I'm either just going to still wash my face with a gentle cleanser or just with water, so that my skin can fully recover. And then after that I can see that my skin gets back to normal, and then I'm going to continue with my usual routine. So there you have already a little frequency guide in mind when doing so, because a different gel and benzoyl peroxide cleanser can sometimes lead to a bit more dryness or even sensitivity. Therefore you may need to reduce it, and you cannot do this daily. This of course depends on your overall tolerance and sensitivity degree. And so when now doing this combination, I'm going to again show it above the sink. Now you just saw how I've applied my sunscreen. I've applied it on my face, neck, décolletage, ears, and even just behind. You can go ahead and do this above the sink. It is possible, especially with the sunscreen that I've used, because it removes easily from the skin. Still, my preference is always to then remove it in the shower, because you can reach the areas much better. You have more time to properly cleanse your areas where you have applied your sunscreen, so that you can properly take it off the skin. Especially if you should have a mineral sunscreen, I highly recommend doing this in the shower, because doing this above the sink is such a mess, especially if you're doing maybe a double cleanse as well. So if you want to see how we can properly take off mainly a mineral sunscreen, I have a specific video for you in the top right corner. But I'm now going to do the entire application above the sink. So one thing with those cleansers that won't change is that you're going to apply to wet skin and then rinse it off with water. So I'm now going to wet the skin as much as I can. Then I'm going to use about a coin size amount of cleanser, and then I'm going to massage it all over where I have applied the sunscreen. In between, right now it is extremely important, just as with benzoyl peroxide cleanser, I'm going to use a cloth that I'm going to wet, then squeeze out, and then gently swipe it across my face, through the ears and even neck, so that you can properly take it off. Because those are, again, those makeup cloths or microfiber cloths, those are extremely soft on the skin, but so helpful to properly take off sunscreen and makeup, and even just cleanser. So therefore, this is, if you want to have a tip on how you can properly wash your face, it's definitely the cloth that I can recommend, because this makes a huge difference. And so I'm now going to wet skin, use the cleanser, massage it over my face and neck for about 30 seconds to a minute. Of course, depending on the sunscreen, you can take your time, maybe go up to 1 to 2 minutes to properly break everything down before you're going to take it off the skin. Then take your cleanser, use about 1 to 2 pumps, more or less about a coin size amount. Then rub your hands together and then evenly blend it all over your face, neck, décolletage, ears. You can see where I have the sunscreen on, and this is now basically where you're going to try and break it down. With the sunscreen I've used, this usually breaks down pretty easy, but you can see it's becoming quite messy when doing this above the sink. So now once you have broken everything down, you are now ready to rinse everything off. Then again, use lukewarm water to warm water so that you can properly get everything off the skin and that it feels comfortable on the skin. So as you can see, if you're trying to rinse off your cleanser from your ears, behind, neck and décolletage, this can become quite uncomfortable and then extremely messy, and you cannot really reach those parts easily. This is one of my major points where I always emphasize to do this in the shower. Still, now you can go ahead and use your washcloth, wet it and then squeeze it out. If you like to, you can even use 2 washcloths depending on how well you have already rinsed it off previously, so that you're making sure that everything comes properly off the skin and that there's no residue left, especially in your ears. So take your time when doing so. So once you have wet it, you're going to squeeze it out and then gently swipe it across your face, neck, décolletage, ears, behind, so that you can get everything off the skin. So as you can see, using a cloth in between is extremely handy, especially to reach your ears, to properly kind of like rub it off the skin. Those cloths are extremely gentle, so they do not hurt on the skin or like scratch the skin, but still it does an effective job in taking everything off. And of course, if you aren't sure how well it took everything off, always go ahead, use a second one and go over those parts again. So now once you took everything off with your washcloth, you now can go ahead and splash some water all over those parts again to make sure that everything comes properly off before you're going to take a towel and removing the water drops from the skin surface. So now again, take a clean towel, remove the water drops from the skin surface by gently patting all over. Please do not rub. So, and once you're done with your cleansing step, you now can immediately move on to the next step, which would be the application of your different gel. Now, if you do not have sensitive skin, you can immediately now move on to the application. If you have a bit of a sensitive skin, you can go ahead and wait 10 minutes in between so that the skin can dry before you're going to apply the different gel, so that you can reduce the likelihood of experiencing sensitivity when using it. And so when using your different gel, it is advised to use it all over your face and neck. Now, of course, if you have acne on your neck, then include it. If it's just primarily on your face, then just use it on your face. One thing that shouldn't change is the time of when you're going to apply it. It should always be around the same time. This is, in my case, around 9 p.m. So I always like to apply my different gel around 9 p.m. So this is really important to keep this in mind of when you're going to use it. And I prefer to use it in the evening. Now, when doing the application, please avoid getting the product into your eyes, nor into your mouth, and do not use it on your eyelid, actual lower lash line, and too close around the lips, because this is where dryness and sensitivity can occur. So please do not forget this, especially on the corners of the eyes and the corners of your mouth. This is where the skin is quite sensitive, so therefore you want to avoid those parts when doing the application. So overall, use about a pea-sized amount to evenly blend it all over thinly. You do not have to have a thick coat. It is not a moisturizer, it's not a hydrating gel, it's a treatment, so please don't forget this. So about that much, more or less. If you want to include your neck, you can use a bit more, but please again do not overdo it. And then blend it evenly all over. So, and once you have applied it all over your face and maybe neck as well, you're going to leave it on the skin. There's no need to wash it off. And then this would be the example routine that I like to do in the evening. I do not like to use hydrating products in between nor moisturizer afterwards. I just feel like it works the best when using the different gel on its own. And so this is the routine that I want to share with you, that I do myself for my normal to oily acne prone skin, and it has been extremely effective. Therefore I want to share it with you so that you can recreate it at home if you should have the same concern. And so if you enjoyed this video, if you find it helpful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well as share it. If you now want to learn more about skincare, you want to see some videos on how you can wash your face in the shower, I'm going to leave some of the videos at the end of this video, but you will find more of them on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next one. Happy skincaring. Bye.